Hello and welcome in to Gamecock Central Live, Fowl Balls, our GC Live baseball show. I am your host, Intern Joe Macheca. Very sick host, Intern Joe Macheca. With me, as always, my co-host, the one, the only, Jack Veltri. Jack, how we doing on this fine Wednesday afternoon?
I got over my sickness last week, so I hate it for you, pal. But
Yeah,
you'll get there eventually.
we'll
But
be ready to go for the weekend. That's all that matters.
exactly, that's the important part. That you're
Yes.
ready for the weekend that's to come. So.
Indeed. So, how we doing?
I'm doing good, man. Doing good. Baseball is, it's back in full swing, man. I think that's the important part. And yeah, man, it's been a lot of fun so far, and looking forward to this weekend.
It's heating up for sure. Lance checking in. How we doing? He says it's been a good sports year so far. Just need the football team to get on board. Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. And the football team making some moves this offseason. There is an approval of athletic contracts, but this is not a football show. We'll talk baseball. Maybe we'll get to some football at the end if we got some time. But Jack, before we get things started, we want to talk about we'll go from the sponsors right from the top. Let some other people get in here. Yeah, absolutely. So first off, I want to talk to you guys about our good friends over at Liberty Tax as I pull this up real quick. All right, there we go. There it is. Tax ID is an uncertain feeling you get right before doing your taxes, but you don't have to go through alone. And the tax team at Liberty Tax in Irmo, Lexington, and Columbia will walk you through the process. Clear up any confusion. Guarantee you'll get the biggest possible refund or your money back. It's tax time. If you're in a hurry for a refund, call in the tax team at Liberty Tax. They're fast, accurate, and guaranteed. On the other hand, if you think you might be owing Uncle Sam, talk to Liberty Tax Team to make sure you're not paying more than you should owe. They'll find every possible deduction for you. Locally owned and operated, staffed by tax professionals from your neighborhood. Open 9 to 9 on weekdays and 9 to 5 on Saturdays with multiple service options. Start through the Liberty Tax mobile app or through the desktop portal. Make an appointment or just walk in. Give a call to upload your tax documents. And when you come in, your return will be ready to review and sign. Give them a call on your screen right now. And for those listening, 803-462-5576. Once again, 803-462-5576 for all of your tax needs this tax season. The show is also brought to you by our good friend Clint Hammond of the Movement Mortgage Network. He's above us on all of our Gamecock Central live programming. He's the man, and you need help with your mortgage. Give our guy Clint, your good friend Clint Hammond of the Movement Mortgage Network a call. He's been in the mortgage industry since 2003, which allows him to help everyone from the first-time home buyer to the complicated and complex jumbo buyer, whether you're looking to purchase a new home or refinance. Nothing is more important than a well-thought-out financial strategy that comes with five-star customer service. He's even helped out our very own Wes Mitchell and former Gamecock quarterback Perry Orth with their mortgages. So give our guy Clint a call. He's above us on all of our GC Live programming, 803-771-6933. Once again, 803-771-6933. We got one more, Andy Luedecke of My Perfect Franchise. He's the guy at My Perfect Franchise, ready to leave the corporate rat race for the American dream, looking for a side hustle while working your current job, wanting to diversify, build wealth, and or leave legacy. Andy can help. Andy is a franchise consultant as well as franchise owner and helps people find franchises that fit their skill sets, financial requirements, time to commit, and more. His services are 100% free, and he's here to help if you have any questions about business ownership. So give our guy Andy a call on your screen right now, 404-973-9901. Once again, 404-973-9901. All right, Jack, now we can talk about the baseball. We got the Bills out of the way. And Lance says this baseball team seems deep in pitching and the bats are warming up. Could be a hell of a weekend. Couldn't agree more. You want to well, first, before we get to this weekend, let's talk about this last weekend. Pretty good series over Belmont. Obviously, you had some weather delays. You lost one, which isn't ideal, but you responded well, right, Jay?
Yeah. Like you said, Joe, they lost a game, whatever. I've seen the reaction has kind of just been a little all over the place from that Saturday game where they lost 11-2. Look, let's just be straight. They didn't play a good game. They had 4 errors. You allow 11 runs. You couldn't hit with runners in scoring position to save your life, and you lost. And the reaction online after is just you would have thought the season was like ending or something, like the world was coming to an end. And again, that's the thing with baseball that I think kind of gets lost in translation is that it's a long season. It's not like football where if you lose a game, you only have like 11 left, right? With baseball, you play over 50 plus games and then postseason, SEC tournament, it's not a big deal. There are teams out there that are losing games like crazy right now. Midweek games, a lot of good teams lost yesterday. Look at East Carolina, I think, for example. They lost their midweek game yesterday. There are other teams out there. And they're not going undefeated. Like that was never going to happen. It's literally not like it's not possible. And South Carolina just had an off day, and that's the thing with baseball. Any given day, things like this can happen. But they responded just how you thought they should, and they got the win on Sunday, and run ruled Belmont. So I think just as the year goes on, as it gets warmer, all of the bats I think are going to heat up, and they're going to be fine. So.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I gathered the same thing. It was a very big response. Coach Kingston said the same thing on Sunday about his team. It's exactly what you want your team to respond from after getting almost run rolled in that Saturday game, right? And then they were nails, lights out last night, Jack.
Yeah, no, I think it was a little bit of a slow start offensively speaking, but I think that fifth inning where they score 7 runs, and obviously Gavin Cassis hitting the moonshot 429-foot home run. I think that was kind of long overdue because he had been due for one, right? Let's see, last Friday hit a ball off the top of the left field fence for a double that should have been out any other night. And then he hits a few fly balls to the warning track. I think he hit one to dead center that looked like it was gone off the bat, but it landed like a foot, away from going out. But that's baseball, and some swings are going to be good, some swings are not. And yesterday he had struck out in his first at bat, and what he said after the game was, in that strikeout, he saw what pitches the guy was throwing, and then he figured, okay, next at bat, maybe he'll throw the same stuff, and he did, and he got crushed as a result. And obviously Gavin hit that long home run, and it wasn't a great offensive day yesterday besides those 7 runs, but I think what really stands out is the pitching, right? You get another great start from Eddie Copper, 5 innings on 61 pitches, 5 strikeouts, and he allowed a run in the second inning, but overall he looked very good. And then outside of that, you get Ty Good continuing to pitch good, and then Tyler Dean and Connor McCreary to close it out. I mean, look, the game was kind of out of hand at that point, but it's always good to get guys in there and see what they can do. And I thought it was a very, very good game all around yesterday. But now your focus is on the big series ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. I was really impressed with Copper yesterday, right? Continuing to get that second chance in the midweeks and being lights out, right? Similar development to that we saw of a one Eli Jones. Reminds me a lot of his development, a lot actually, Eddie Copper. So that's big. Jack, I think with the loss on Saturday begs the pitching question. I don't know if Kingston's made it public yet, but I think the move is to go to Becker on Saturday, right?
So yeah, we'll find out more. So Mark Kingston, if he's supposed to be speaking to the media tomorrow, as well as a few players to kind of preview the Clemson series and stuff, and we'll have a lot of coverage from that on GamecockCentral.com heading into the weekend. But one thing I'm sure he'll talk about is the rotation. And if I had to guess right now, obviously Eli Jones is going Friday, right? Sunday, Roman Kimball probably. It's just that Saturday that kind of gets a little up in the air because Dylan Eskew, for the most part, has been pretty good this year. But, as that Saturday game went on, he looked really good. But then, 4th, 5th inning gets around, 2nd, 3rd time through the order, and he just gets roughed up and struggles with walks. And, in a series like this against Clemson, you really need to throw your best guys. And look at Matthew Becker for, like you just said, Joe. I mean, he's continued to pitch really well since coming back from his lat strain. And, if it weren't for that minor setback, he probably would be in the weekend rotation. And we're probably looking at Dylan Eskew maybe in the bullpen or as a, midweek starter. But that's not the case. And now you're kind of in a situation where you're like, okay, well, who do you throw? And honestly, what wouldn't surprise me is that Becker starts or Eskew, whoever it might be, and then whoever doesn't get the start probably piggybacks at some point.
Relief, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I that's a great idea. I like that, especially because we don't know if Becker's like at full. I don't know if Becker can give you 6 innings right now.
No, but I think what he can give you is, and we saw this on Sunday, he can give you right now 50, 60s. I mean, at this point, I think King was saying that. I know with Kimball, he'll probably be about that 80 pitch count this weekend.
Yeah.
But I think with Becker, I think it's the same thing. So you could
Becker's
easily
just a week behind him.
yeah, it's not even like they're kind of on the same path if you think about it.
Yeah.
And I think Becker, if he starts, he can definitely give you 5-6 innings, which is more than enough. Then you turn
Yeah. Oh,
over
yeah.
your bullpen.
If
So
you
yeah,
can if you can keep your starter in the game 5-6 innings against this Clemson lineup, and we'll talk about that in a
yeah,
little bit, but yeah, no, I agree.
no, totally. And so yeah, I think you're on the right track, Joe. I think if I'm Mark Kingston in this situation, I'm going Eli Jones Friday, Becker Saturday, Roman Kimball Sunday, and try to get a series win or a sweep. I think I think South Carolina's pitching is a lot better than Clemson's, and I think when it comes down to offenses, it's kind of even. So I think the pitching is going to be the difference this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, we're going to get into our full Clemson preview in a little bit as soon as we finish wrapping up the weekend series. Jack, you got anything else from the weekend? I know there were plenty of bats, plenty of offense to go around. Ethan Petrie got back on the home run track. He played really well. The Moose had a pretty good couple games as well. So we'll talk about the offense and wrap up this weekend series before we get to a little sneak preview you got.
Yeah, just with the offense, like you said. I mean, look, there are guys that are not swinging the bat overly well at the moment, right? Will Tippett, I know, is one name that I've seen thrown around a lot that he's, not swinging the bat great. But you also have to think about the fact that one, A, it's a long season, and then B, I mean, look at the other factors he brings into the game. His defense is really solid over there at shortstop. I think it's been really, really good outside of a few misplayed balls, but that happens. And then his speed is, it's also really good. And he provides a nice spark at the bottom of the order if he can get on base. And that's the thing. I think he led the team. I don't know if he still does. He led the team in RBIs and I believe on base percentage at one point, despite his batting average and hit totals being so low. So if he can just draw walks, lay down bunts, get on base in other ways, I mean, he'll be really dangerous. So ideally, Tribe. You'd like his bat to pick it up a little bit, but I think knowing the kind of player he is based off last year and heading into this year, his bat's not overly great. He'll have a few moments here and there, but what you're getting out of him is a really good defender at shortstop and a quick, speedy guy that can get on base from time to time. So, but other than that, Cole Messina finally getting hot. I think we'll see. Cassis, I think he's on his way to a big weekend, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
The ballpark cannot, the fences cannot hold that ball. The balls that he's hitting.
So much longer. No, I agree. And I'm gonna take this and run here real quick with Casas, right? Like, I mean, his home run last night was well onto William Street. Like that ball was
that ball clear
country miles. Yeah. Like, I mean, it's ridiculous. So that was big. I think, and Casas, he's a microwave kind of player, right? He has a good couple games and then he's gonna get going for the next, 3 to 4 to 5. The problem is, I mean, when you have a player like that, is getting him reignited, right? I think this Clemson series, he'll be rare and ready to go. That home run was very much proof of it. So shout out to Gavin Costas, and he's one of those guys, Jack. I mean, we talked about Tyler Causey stepping up, made his spot in the lineup. Not necessarily in question, right? Because it's a guy that's done so much for you in the past, but he hadn't been hitting the ball too well in the spring. So now I think that home run and just how he's had his hitting approach these last couple of days has been great. And has him ready to go for Clemson.
Yeah, and with the offense, I'll say one more thing, and I've got a story coming out on this later today. But over the last few games, we've seen a little bit of shifting in the lineup and stuff, and that's kind of what this stretch kind of built for, right? Yeah. You get new guys in and stuff with getting Kennedy Jones in there finally, right? We get to see him get some more consistent at bats, and the thing that I like is that they're throwing different lineups out there for different situations, right? With facing a right-handed pitcher on the mound, which you're going to probably face most of the time. You got a lot of lefties in the lineup. Blake Jackson's, Tyler Causey's in the lineup. But when you're facing a left-handed pitcher on the mound, you're able to throw in Kennedy Jones and Ryan Bakes, amongst others, and get them some at-bats. And I also like the one big change that Kingston made yesterday was finally moving Dylan Brewer up, and he was hitting in the 2-hole yesterday while Parker Noland, who was previously in that spot, was down the 7th spot. So, look, the thing with this team is I think they're really good from 1 to 9. It doesn't really matter where these guys hit. I think they're pretty much all going to be able to produce. But having that ability to plug and play when someone's not doing well or you have a better matchup. Like, for instance, Kennedy Jones, I think Kingston was saying it on Sunday. He's like a career 400 hitter against left-handed pitchers. Why wouldn't you throw a guy like that in there? More righties in the lineup versus a lefty is good. Lefties versus a righty in a lineup on that kind of day, that's also good. But the ability to mix and match is it's a really good thing. It speaks to how much depth this team has.
Yeah, and it's starting. One thing I kind of picked up from the weekend in the Kennedy Jones flip, right? This team is proving and it's something that they haven't really had in the last couple of years. These last couple of years, they've had to make these roster changes because guys have gone cold. Now to do it when all these guys are hot and you're doing it based on matchups, I think is huge for this team. Absolutely huge. To be able to have guys continue to be hot, and obviously some guys are going to run cold and whatever, but to have it entering SEC play. Where you have an interchangeable roster just based on matchups. I think that's huge, and then everyone's on board at that point. So I think that's big. Big Red Ass. Are any pitches that are money for most of our guys to hit? Any balls that give us problems? I think certainly for Gavin Costas, he likes a good breaking ball right down the middle of the plate. That always helps for anybody.
Yeah,
But Big Red, I was thinking about this. It's kind of a cop-out answer, but I think, bad breaking balls it's something our guys will either lay off or take to the moon, but then good breaking balls can be really hard to lay off. If you get a couple good breaking balls, an umpire that's, has a looser strike zone, I think that can be a real enemy especially to a team that takes as many pitches as South Carolina does.
Yeah, definitely. Fastballs, obviously they got to be on time for those, but those breaking pitches, I think there's been a few that have definitely hung over the plate, and we've seen with Gavin and Messina and stuff.
Yeah.
This lineup, you give them a bad pitch, they'll hit it a country mile. So
yeah, so that's big. All right, Jack, you want to tell the people about your little preview?
Yeah. So I had the chance to talk with former Gamecock captain Adam Matthews the other day, and tomorrow, that's the plan. I'll have a full interview posted on the Gamecock Central YouTube sometime probably in the morning. So be sure to stay tuned for that. But without further ado, I have a clip to show from that interview as Matthews, he was here during the peak of South Carolina baseball when they were going to the College World Series every year and won it a few times. But he also had the chance to play against Clemson, not just in the regular season, but in the postseason twice. So without further ado, here is my interview with Adam Matthews, just a little clip of it. Definitely. Looking kind of ahead to now, I'm not sure how much you really keep up with the team nowadays, Adam, but, obviously big weekend series coming up against these guys with South Carolina. Playing Clemson this weekend. What would your advice be to the guys that are on the team now, maybe playing in the series for the first time?
Yeah, stay within yourself. It's easy to get wrapped up in the hype and in the environment. Go back to the basics, understand why you're playing at South Carolina, understand, yes, this is going to be a very hype environment and a very big series, sure, but you don't want to try to overstep in terms of try to do something that you're not capable of or put too much pressure on yourself. It's very easy to do, and I think that's what people don't realize sometimes is being local, how much local pressure that puts on somebody. And again, stay within yourself and breathe.
Yeah.
Breathe. It helps.
Have you been able to watch the team much this year? And if so, what have you thought about them in the early going? I know it's only been a few games, but
so my schedule's slammed right now. I'm getting married in a couple of months, so we're planning with that, and then work's all over the place. So that being said, yes, I've seen the highlights. We had it on last weekend. We had a tennis tournament that I was at, and so I catch more so sitting down and watching the entire game. I catch innings, and I think the team looks fantastic. I think there's a lot of good positive momentum. Again, yes, I know they lost. What was that, Saturday?
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to win them all, but that's how you rebound. It's how you go into the next week or the next month or the next series, and how you then attack the issues, if you will, or how do you get better? How do you improve on it?
Yeah, and with this weekend, both these teams are going to be top 25 in the country, and it's going to be a big test for South Carolina, kind of right out of the gate. How important would you say? Obviously coming from experience, how important is it to have this series be so big early in the year to kind of set the tone for the rest of the season?
Yeah, it's I guess that question is better answered after the series, depending on what side you come out on. Look back, obviously, when was that 2010 when we lost. That was a big momentum shift. I'll never forget coming back and we had to like run polls and a bad series. But yeah, if you can set the tone early in the year, you know what you have going into the SEC play. How dare I say Clemson has an easier route with ACC play. So I'm sure that'll be blasted out there somewhere. But when you get into SEC baseball play and those series are so they're just hard. I mean, they're hard, right? So when you're playing a team like Clemson, and I'll give Clemson credit, yes, they got a great baseball program. So when both teams are ranked like we are this year, it really helps set the tone for the rest of the year.
Yep. So that was part of my interview with Adam Matthews. But like I said before, you can go ahead and check that full interview out tomorrow. We talk a lot about a lot of different things, including some old memories from playing those guys in the 2010 College World Series and again in the 2012 regional play. So definitely had a great time talking to Adam. And once again, thanks again, Adam, for hopping on and joining me for a bit. But Joe, let's talk business, man. Let's talk about the task at hand this weekend.
Yeah, certainly a big task at hand. And, Jack, shout out. That interview is really good. You guys go check that out when it drops tomorrow. Be sure to do that. So, yeah, Clemson, 7-1. Obviously, they haven't opened up ACC play, but one loss to Kennesaw State, 18-1. Jack, this is probably the best Clemson team we've seen in years going into the Palmetto State rivalry. What are your initial thoughts of this team, and how do you think the Gamecocks are going to attack them?
Yeah, I think this is like you said, Joe, is a pretty good Clemson team. We'll see what happens, but one thing I can immediately tell you just right off the bat is that it's going to be a very competitive series. It always ends up being that way, whether it's because of the 1-1-1 split on where they go play. Obviously, this weekend, first game's at Founders Park on Friday night. And Saturday, they make the little trip to Segra Park, where the Fireflies play in Columbia. And then Sunday, it's off to the other side of the state where you're going to play at Clemson in that series finale. So it's going to be high energy, I can imagine. A lot of Gamecock fans there Friday, good split on Saturday, and then it's in enemy territory on Sunday. But, with this Clemson team, just looking at them a little bit, obviously they got the one blemish on their schedule, which is that 18-1 loss to Kennesaw State last Friday night. And that was an ugly one, right? And I think with that said, I think their pitching is their starting pitching isn't as good as South Carolina's is. Billy Barlow is their Friday starter, and I think he is no Eli Jones. That's just my opinion. Just my opinion. Maybe it's a hot take or whatever, and maybe that comes back to bite me. But I just think Eli Jones can outduel him there. And then Tristan Smith on Saturday, assuming he starts again, we'll see. But and then the one that really stands out to me, and I think he's been a very good pitcher so far, is, I hope I'm saying this right, Aiden Knack, who is Clemson's Sunday starter. He struggled in his first start of the year. And again, he's a freshman for Clemson, but he goes back out in his second start against Kennesaw State and throws 6 shutout innings. So I think South Carolina, with them, it's getting their offense clicking, right? And I think with Clemson's going to be able to match whatever South Carolina does offensively. It just comes down to who pitches better. And like I said before, I think South Carolina can win that battle.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it is ultimately going to come down to the pitching. It's just who steps up, right? I think both of these lineups are just loaded. I mean, and we'll get to like both batting orders and stuff like that because Cam Cannarella is just tearing up college baseball right now with no remorse. But I think ultimately what this series comes down to, Jack, is the pitching. It's who's going to step up, right? Because you have lightning in a bottle starters on both sides. You're throwing Romy Kimball out there for Sunday, guaranteed. Eli Jones is steady Eddie when it comes to it, but he's going to need to, have some emotion and more of it and more. Oof, I know he brings a lot. I mean, he celebrates. I think he did one of the McGregor walks. I got him walking off the mound after a strikeout, which is pretty good. But, you need to just open up Friday. And we don't know. I mean, Friday, there's 65% chance of rain. It's supposed to be an ugly night.
That's kind of the way it's going to be all weekend with the rain. And honestly, I mean, now here's one thing to think about. If one of these games does get postponed or whatever, don't look for there to be a doubleheader because of the 1-1-1 format where you're playing at 3 different locations. It's a little tougher to have a a doubleheader because it wouldn't make much sense to play 2 games at Clemson, right? And it gets even trickier if the Segra Park game gets delayed or whatever or postponed.
I think if there is a delay, if they do it, it would be Friday's game, right? Because Friday it's a very easy transition between, Founders and Sagra.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah,
But I think the one thing we have to look back at, I think it happened a few years ago. I believe it was 2022 or 21. One of the games got postponed for some reason, and then what happened was they'd play. I think it was at Clemson midweek game later in the year to make it up. So that's probably the route they'll go down, Joe. I mean, who knows? Maybe if that Friday game does get postponed, maybe they do. Maybe they do that thing with playing the first game at Founders on Saturday afternoon or something, and then maybe make the trip to Segra later that day. I don't know. That might be too much of a
I mean, and we'll find out from Kingston what they're thinking too, right? Because they usually have a pretty good grip on the rain and when they want to reschedule. And I mean, I think at this point it's only Wednesday, right? And you would hope it's cleared up. But at this point, the rain's only getting worse. Like right at the beginning of the week, it was kind of just let's kind of wait and see. And then it's getting worse. So they definitely have a track on it, and are certainly having conversations about it as the situation develops.
Oh, totally. I mean, let's look at it this way. So Friday, I'm looking at my phone, 60% chance of rain. It's gonna be cold out, 54 degrees, and then Saturday is supposed to be cloudy, 67 as the high, and then Sunday, at least here, it's gonna be 45% chance of rain. So look, man, it's just that time of year where the rain's gonna be coming in. March is rolling around. Maybe it's a little early preview of what April looks like with the rain and stuff. But one way or another, this series is gonna get completed, and hopefully it's all in one go. Hopefully it's this entire weekend.
Yeah, both these teams are good enough to where you need to play these games. It's gonna matter for both teams. It comes down to it ultimately.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it'll be an interesting weekend, right? Keys to the weekend, besides obviously pitching needs to step up and bring all of the energy all of the time, right? I have full confidence Dylan Eskew can do that, and and Jack, like you said, maybe doing a 2-2 kind of starter role. I think that would be beneficial. Just kind of depends on how it's going, right? If Becker comes out there and shoves 5 strikeouts or 2, I don't know if you're going to pull him necessarily to keep him from hurting his lat. It's Clemson. I mean, this is it. So
yeah, this is a ranked series, man. This is a top.
Yeah, this is it.
Series. And this could have a big implication on. It's early in the year and rankings mean whatever right now. But I think South Carolina can definitely catapult itself up in the ranking.
Well, and you have one home series before you go on the road to Ole Miss. And right, you're sure that it's out at Founders Park, it certainly helps. But your first real quality opponent after that is going to be on the road at Ole Miss. And Ole Miss, I mean, they're not ranked right now, haven't been playing the best baseball, but it's still Ole Miss. They're still a factory in the SEC.
No, and like Adam Matthews said in our interview, I think just this series holds so much weight. It's not just obviously in-state Palmetto series, whatever, but like these are good. These are 2 good teams, man, and this kind of really sets the tone for what you do the rest of the year. Obviously, there's going to be a long way to go, a few more months of baseball after the series, whatever happens, but it definitely is a good test in the early going to see where your team's at, and it's kind of like a measuring stick almost, right? Because you're really
absolutely temperature gauge of
Clemson's a top.
It's the same thing for basketball, right? I mean,
exactly.
We were talking about this on the walkthrough. I think it was a couple of weeks ago. This series has always been, when both teams are good, this series has always been kind of a measuring stick of where you're at. And then I guess now with the college football playoff and the way that's evolving, I mean, if South Carolina and football, sure, it's not in the spot to be talking playoffs right now by any means, but could be measuring stick for postseason play here to come soon. But yeah, it's crazy. I mean, Jack, if you're South Carolina's pitching staff, how are you going about attacking this Clemson lineup?
Yeah, I think you want your fastball to look good, right? But try not to serve it over the middle of the plate because I think they've got some guys in this lineup who can definitely crush it. One that's you said Cade Cannarella. I think that's one of the. I mean, he's their best hitter right now, hitting over 500. very much on the same level as like a Dylan Brewer, for example. But another guy, I think Will Taylor, I mean, despite his low average, I mean, he's been swinging the bat better. Alden Mathis, and I think they've got a very solid team that can definitely go out there and score some runs. I definitely see this series. I don't see it being a sweep on either side. I think it's going to be, they both take a game, and then it just comes down to who's winning that final game of the series, and we'll see. But I think South Carolina, the plan of the attack should just, you got great off speed stuff, and Matthew Becker, I think, is above and beyond probably the best with breaking pitches and stuff. I mean, the break, the spin.
His curveball is disgusting, dude.
And they have a bunch of guys that can definitely go out there and do that. So, get ahead in the counts, and then just show them what you got, man. Throw your off speed, and throw it in the dirt. See what happens. Don't throw it over the heart of the plate, because can do what South Carolina can. And like I said, I think the depth that they have in this bullpen, that we've seen a lot of guys pitch by now. I think there are a good bit of them that can actually go out there and get out. So we'll see what happens.
You're going to need your bullpen this weekend, because whether you like it or not, weather is going to have a factor on this series one way or another. Like, I think it's going to rain enough this weekend to where we're going to have a delay of some sort somewhere, either whether it be in the upstate or in Columbia somewhere on Saturday. There will be weather moving back and pushing forward games. So you need your bullpen to be ready to go at all times.
Yeah, and what you don't really want, and this happened last Friday, where you're playing a few innings, it's looking all nice and sunny out. Eli Jones is cruising on the mound, 3 no-hit innings, and then bam, weather comes in, 2-hour rain delay, he can't pitch again.
Yep.
Now, I don't think he would have pitched either way in that game again. But if it's the same situation this week, where you get a 1-hour rain delay, maybe an hour 30, and it's like third inning, and you got your best guy on the mound, maybe you bring him back out. I don't know. Maybe it's maybe.
No, I was thinking about that too. Like, because if it's like 35 to 45 minutes, you're giving Eli Jones a look at least.
Oh yeah,
right?
He's coming back out if it's under an hour. But
if it's
anything over,
if it gets to like an hour-ish, you're gonna let him. Warm up a little bit.
Yeah.
But that's when you get into gray area of like hurting him for the long term, right? Because you don't want him to come back out there and throw 2-3 innings and then just rip up his labrum.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, you don't want to mess with injuries, especially with this team, because I think everything's going good right now. A lot of guys are pitching and stuff. However, I don't know if this would be the case, but I feel like one injury happens to this pitching staff, it really changes things a little bit. I think it's especially in the starting rotation. Like, I don't even want to get into it, but if something happens, man, God forbid. Who knows? So, but yeah. So Big Red asks, are conference series more important than out of conference series?
Yes.
Yes, obviously. In terms of SEC play and seeding in the SEC tournament and stuff. Yes, obviously, but I think more so than that, South Carolina's going to face a lot of good opponents in conference play.
Yeah.
Whereas with non-con, it's literally just Clemson and then everyone else, and they'll play a few midweek games that are kind of important. You'll get, I think, North Carolina at some point.
Citadel.
Citadel. So and Charlotte too, I believe, a few times maybe. Winthrop, but those SEC series, man, they are. Look, you got Arkansas coming to town. You got to go play Alabama, Ole Miss.
Yeah, I think the schedule's top heavy on purpose, right? It's because there are so many darn good teams in the SEC, especially for baseball, that South Carolina really didn't schedule anybody in their out of conference schedule because they know their SEC schedule will do the bidding for them, right?
Yeah, totally. And that's why you see so many SEC teams in in the postseason, right? And that's why you see a lot of them end up making it to Omaha. So it's a gauntlet, and South Carolina definitely is going to have their work cut out for them. But I think with the way things are going right now, I think they're in a good position to do so. And like we said before, this Clemson series is really going to tell you a lot about your team, whether you like it or not.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Jack, before we get out of here, give me a pick and who's going to stand out.
In terms of like the series?
Yes.
All right. I think game 1, Friday night, electric atmosphere at Founders. I think they win game 1. Game 2 at Segra. I think I'm going to say Matthew Becker's on the mound. I think they win game 2. I think South Carolina wins the first 2 games of the series. However, going back to Clemson, I don't know, man. I think they lose game 3. I think just going there, Clemson's going to be, if they are down 2-0 in the series, they're going to want to get a 1 win. And what better place than do it at home? And I think, like I said before, with Aiden Knack, their freshman right-hander, or freshman pitcher, I should say, it's we'll see what happens. But if I had to pick a dark horse for like the hitter of the series or most impactful player,
Most impactful, just somebody that's going to stand out.
Someone that's going to stand
Either
out.
side.
I'm going with Gavin Cassis, man. Don't.
Pick.
Yeah, that's a great pick because last year we saw him have the 2-homer game at Founders against Clemson, and I expect his bat is waking up. I think he's definitely due for a big weekend. Big players show up when the games matter most.
Yeah. No, I agree on two fronts. I think Casas is a good player for pick of the week, and then I also think it's going to be 2-1. I just don't think it's going to be the way that you think. I think the series, South Carolina wins Friday. I think there's going to be some kind of weather involved on Friday. I don't know. Maybe there, you start it and save Eli. I don't know. Weather's going to be involved some way, shape, or form this weekend. I don't know. Friday, Saturday, Sunday. But I have them winning at Founders Park on Friday. I have Saturday kind of being a shaky game back and forth, and then Clemson fighting's the way to do it because it's just not, you're not at home, you're not at Founders Park, you don't have fans completely around the entirety of the field. And I'm not saying Gamecock Nation won't do that, but it's just gonna be harder. It's a neutral site, and again, you've got imminent weather and stuff like that. Becker again, I think he should be good to go for 5-6 innings, but I think with the neutral site and stuff, Clemson's gonna jump all over it, and they're gonna take at least one game, right? They're very capable of taking this whole series, Jack, I would say. Now, will South Carolina let it? No, I think, now granted, I don't think either team is good enough to have it be a sweep either way. That's just not going to happen. So one team is going to win the series one way, and I don't think anyone sweeps necessarily.
No, I think that middle game is probably the most important. Not just because it's a neutral game or whatever, neutral site, but whoever wins that game kind of has the leg up heading into the final game. Because if South Carolina wins Friday and then wins game 2, you're in the driver's seat. And if it's Clemson and you're down 1-0 or you're up 2-0 and you win that second game, you get to go back home to Clemson and play in front of your home fans and try to either sweep or get a series win. So
it's
a lot of fun, man. And I'm looking forward to being there for the whole thing. So, and I'm looking forward to having you there with me on Saturday.
Absolutely. Yeah, no. Should be a good one. Hopefully I've recovered enough and all that, and appreciate everyone bearing with me because I am a little sick today, as you guys could probably tell. But appreciate everyone tuning in this Wednesday afternoon edition of GC Live Fowl Balls on a little leap day action for you. So appreciate everyone tuning in, and have a